I stood on the ridge and watched the villas burn. Glass walls folded in on themselves, roofs cracked, and the champagne pavilion Karen had built for her grand opening was nothing but molten rubble. Minutes earlier, she had been smiling on stage, microphone in hand, promising elevated living. Now, the only thing elevated was the plume of smoke and ash rising over Kalapana Vista Estates. And me, I was the man everyone had called crazy, the volcano guy screaming for months that this mountain wasn't done breathing. I never wanted this life. After 30 years as a government geologist, I thought I'd earned quiet. My father's cabin sat just outside HOA jurisdiction, grandfathered long before Karen and her army of clipboards arrived. I liked being the flannel-shirt old guy who waved at joggers, patched fences after storms, and kept to myself. But quiet doesn't last long when someone decides your home is in the way of their empire. Karen Jennings rolled in like a storm in designer heels. Within months, she hijacked the HOA rewrote bylaws and plastered our hillsides with renderings of glass villas and infinity pools. The first time I saw those neon signs hammered near my fence, future site of Molina Ridge luxury villas, I froze. That slope wasn't just steep. It was a geological booby trap. Porous lava rock. Old vents a history of eruptions less than 50 years ago. You'd have to be arrogant or insane to build there. Karen. She was both. I carried my maps into her office, data stacked a foot high. Soil cores, lava flow, overlays, USGS charts. She didn't even glance, just leaned back in her white leather chair and said, "Mr. Morgan, you're not a member of this association. Your opinions, while passionate, are unsolicited." Then she smiled, that cruel little smile that said she'd already won. I told her the ridge was a known lava chute. She said the county approved it, and if I had a problem, I should take it up with permitting. I did. Turns out, the risk assessment came from her brother's shell company. That's when I realized it wasn't ignorance, it was fraud. I filed complaints, wrote letters, even called old colleagues in the Geological Survey. Most were sympathetic. Some were exhausted. All said the same: unless there's an active eruption warning, nothing they could do. Meanwhile, Karen cut down trees my father planted, bulldozed ancient drainage lines, and sent newsletters painting me as some doomsday lunatic. Joggers muttered "volcano guy" as they passed. Someone spray-painted "move out boomer" on my fence. I told myself I didn't care. But the truth, it stung. Weeks later, her crew trespassed outright chainsaws, ripping into the ironwood trees marking my property line. Those trees weren't just markers, they were part of a federally recognized lava buffer zone. I stormed up, voice shaking. "This is private land." The foreman shrugged. We were told HOA approval. I laughed bitterly. HOA doesn't redraw property lines. He just pointed to Karen's name on his work order. That night, I barely slept. I opened my father's journals, flipping through his hand-drawn maps until I found it a collapsed vent right where Karen planned her Phase 1 villas. A ready-made lava channel disguised by brush, now flattened for a patio. I mailed everything to the county, to the zoning department, even to the local paper. Silence. Except for one envelope shoved in my mailbox, a cease and desist from the HOA accusing me of harassment and false claims. That was the first time I thought about giving up. I sat at my father's desk, hands pressed against my temples, staring at that legal letter. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was just an old man clinging to ghosts. Maybe the world really did belong to people like Karen. People with money lawyers and the charm to make a community cheer while they buried it in concrete. For a night I believed it. Then Anna knocked on my door. Young mom, new resident. She handed me a manila folder, eyes darting like she was being watched. "These are the original geological assessments," she whispered. They flagged the site as high risk. Karen forced the county to accept a private review instead. Inside emails, signatures evidence. Proof. She begged me not to reveal her name. I promised. And just like that, the fire inside me lit again. I sent the documents anonymously, but Karen's bulldozers didn't stop. In fact, they cut deeper. Steam hissed from cracks my ground sensors showed rising temperatures, and at night the mountain groaned like something alive. I called Dr. Kiana Aokai, a former student of mine now at the Volcanic Observatory. She came out with scanners pulled up satellite imaging. "There's movement," she said. "Slow, deep, but moving." I asked if it would erupt. She didn't say no, and yet Karen barreled forward. Phase 1. Gala scheduled champagne on ice, local news invited. The flyers mocked me, luxury elevated, the future begins. The irony was suffocating. The night before, I drafted one last email. Attached every data set, every thermal image, every photo of bulldozers ripping into vents. I didn't sign my name. I signed with coordinates the exact spot where the 1967 flow had broken through, the same spot where Karen had built her stage. Saturday afternoon was postcard perfect. The crowd clapped politely as Karen paraded across the stage in her designer suit, microphone sparkling in the sun. Behind her, villas shimmered like glass teeth biting into the ridge. At 3:17, the ground shifted. Subtle, then violent. Glassware rattled, the pavilion lights swayed. Karen laughed into the mic, cracked some joke about Hawaiian earthquakes. My sensor alarm screamed back at home, vertical uplift. Magma on the move. I sprinted down the trail, lungs burning, boots slipping on ash. When I crested the ridge, I saw it, red light bleeding through a jagged crack, smoke curling upward, the mountain's throat opening. The crowd didn't move at first. People never believe until they see fire. Then came the screams. I waved my arms, shouting, "This way! Off the slope! Now!" Anna clutched her niece's hand, eyes wide. An old man stumbled with a stroller. People tripped, dropped phones, sobbed. And then Villa 1A split in two, lava swallowing it whole in seconds. The smell of burning plastic and scorched earth punched my lungs. Karen just stood there, mascara streaking, microphone dangling from her hand. Frozen. I fought through the chaos, grabbed her arm. "Get off the stage." She blinked at me, whispering, "I didn't know." My voice cracked. "Yes, you did. You just didn't listen." Her heels slipped in the gravel as I yanked her down, ash swirling around us. Behind the stage collapsed into molten ruin. By dusk, 6 of her 10 villas were gone, 3 more cracked, leaning like broken teeth. Only one remained perched by chance on a rocky shelf. Emergency crews taped off the site, news drones circled, and Karen sat blank-eyed on a fire truck tailgate wrapped in foil empire reduced to rubble. Lawsuits came fast. Home buyers demanded refunds. Construction companies blamed fraudulent geological data. The state attorney general opened investigations. The same HOA that once called me a nuisance was now under criminal review. I was subpoenaed as a witness, my data suddenly gospel. At deposition, one lawyer asked, "Why did you keep recording when everyone ignored you?" I stared him down. "Because the mountain doesn't care what you believe. She only cares what you do." Days later, Karen's defamation suit against me was dropped. My land boundaries were recertified, damages paid, my name cleared. But there was no victory in it. The ridge was scarred, the buffer zone gone, trees my father planted reduced to ash. Karen disappeared into bankruptcy hearings and fraud charges. The residents who once avoided me now stopped by with quiet apologies, some helping me replant saplings. But the mountain had already spoken, and I'll never forget the sound of her voice, low, guttural, unstoppable, the day she decided to remind us who really owned this land. Sometimes the loudest warning is the one we refuse to hear.